Yes.
Christopher.
15.
All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Raw U podcast, episode 15.
You'll never know.
You'll never know what that sound was. Hopefully they can hear it, though. Did it
What
work?
is it?
They were cheering us in. But we have a special guest today and a special announcement. We have Mr. Brett Wilkin over here, our newest Raw athlete. So welcome aboard.
I like this. All the people are here.
I wish we
watching
could
us,
hear
right?
it, but
Or imagine it.
but yeah. So I mean, this is the first announcement, probably.
Yeah. So by the
Brett's
time
coming
this
on.
airs, it'll be announced.
You're going to announce it before this, right?
Yeah, we have it set up for tomorrow. So, yeah, it's good to be here. Came down, specifically for this, getting everything going. Touching base with the guys here and setting everything up for the future. And I'm very, very excited to be part of this brand, this company, and mainly just be surrounded by these individuals to help me level up in all my ventures ahead. And I'm excited for everything to come. I can't believe it's already here, man. It's surreal.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things with our brand we've been trying to do is create, we started as bodybuilding and we want to have ventures out into other stuff. It's just all the love of fitness and training, but we still want the top of the top bodybuilders.
For sure.
And Brett's kind of established that in the last few years. He literally used to be smaller than me competing in classic physique.
Yeah.
What was that, 2016 when I saw you in Toronto? Or
2018. 2018 when I competed.
2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably actually still a little bigger than me, but you were
No, I
doing
was 212
classic.
back then.
212 classic back then, and all of a sudden I
Yeah.
saw you and put on 50 pounds. So
Yeah.
made a statement this year, and obviously, friends with everyone here, and we always want good people in the team, so we're excited to have you. Excited to see what you're gonna do in the future,
Yeah.
and we're gonna interrogate the shit out of you right now, see if it was worth it.
That's right.
But yeah, so what are your plans coming up this year? What do you got going on?
So with this, and I'm announcing this now, not only am I, joining Raw and Revive, I am also going to be moving down here. So I'll be moving down to the area, Stewart, Palm City area in the next 2 months. So, 6 to 8 weeks. That's also why I'm here this week, is kind of look at places to get. And, this is this is something that crossed my mind. It's kind of been on my mind for a while. I've just kind of kept it to myself. But, the opportunity arose where I was in kind of a renegotiation period with the current sponsor, and it timed out wise that, Ivana, my wife, Ivana, and myself, we wanted a change. So, right now I'm currently out in Denver, Colorado, and I have to say that was probably, one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, was to move from Iowa to Denver, Colorado in regards to bodybuilding, to level up. So that's when, I moved there at 195 pounds. And, I'm leaving there at 255 pounds on stage. You know what I mean? So it's it did what it needed to do. It gave me what a true bodybuilding environment is, a real gym atmosphere, and I will forever be thankful for that opportunity. The people out there, Dylan Armbrust, Andrea Palmer, the owners of the gym, are just amazing, amazing people, amazing individuals. And they gave me everything to thrive and become the best bodybuilder I could be. And I couldn't be more thankful for them. And, that's probably the hardest decision, is kind of leaving those two people, because they're such good people. But also with that, it came a point, I've been there 4 years now coming up, and it's I know that there's something next for us, so when we moved from Iowa, it was almost like I was a big fish in a little pond, so I needed to go to a bigger pond. Now, in Denver, I've kind of reached that top in regards to I've done what I could there, and now it's kind of, I need to take that next step. I need to level up in more ways than bodybuilding, so I'm 33. I started this journey late. I started competing at 28, went pro by 29, and now I'm 33. And working with Matt, it's just how can I become, how can I reach my peak as a bodybuilder the fastest? And that's going to be, being around Matt, being around, and then with being around Matt, it's also going to be tying into being with this company, thriving in those aspects. And what I've seen this last year with my bodybuilding journey is, I have gotten a very, very good, and I would say loyal following. So, I'm very, very happy for my fans, especially how much loyalty they show me and the response I've seen this last year. So this is going to let me be able to bring more to them out, not only in the bodybuilding scene, but through content, through relationships, through, providing them the best products possible with an array of different things. With Raw and Revives, there's so many options. So it just felt right. We prayed on this, we thought about it, and it just all clicked. You know, I need to get myself surrounded by people, because you know, out in Denver I'm kind of out on my own. Besides, you know, at the gym, I run my own like coaching business and things, but I want to be around people that are like-minded, but also that are, you know, thriving to always level up daily. You know, and that's what I see with these three guys right here is just, and you know, I've kept in good touch with all these guys over the years, but I'm very impressed on how they're always, you know, always ambitious for the next step, the next journey, the next, you know, maybe it's a business, maybe it's an idea, but the thing is, like, I want to be part of that, and like being around these people will make me, you know, flourish and level up myself. So giving you that, you know, long rundown there, but that's just kind of where this all originated. You know, I also want to look at things life after bodybuilding, so I need to set that up. So this all, you know, this is the area that I'm going to do all that, and I'm 100% in. You know, the wife is 100% in, and we're ready to come down here and just work and, you know, and build our future.
Damn. That's like what.
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, like.
That's what we've been looking for.
I mean, everything that you've literally just said is like what we look for in everyone we. I mean, we didn't have this conversation with you, obviously.
No,
you know, this
no.
is, you just spit this off. There's nothing else I can say. Like, that's literally what we want in an athlete. We want all of the things you just talked about. So for you to say it without us having to hammer it into your head is refreshing for sure.
And it goes to show that there's some stuff you can't teach people too.
No.
Yeah.
You got to just have it,
Yeah.
know it, or learn it yourself in your own ways. But
Yeah.
by your age, hopefully you have it.
Yeah.
But most people don't.
Yeah, no, but no, you just got to look, you know, it's out there. It's so obvious, you know, who's like, what were we talking about the other day, Matt? It's just like, man, look at where you were like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, look what all the shit that has happened in the last 2 years. Where you were here, you know, 2 years ago at this point, and then here, like, when people, that takes them 20 to 30 years to get to that point, you know? So it's like, why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? Or why wouldn't you at least want to be surrounded by those people that make you drive even harder, you know? And it's like, and I've always approached things that way. You guys know me, like, always an athlete, four-sport athlete into college, play college football, you know, and then always just the competitiveness, but it's also like a group competitiveness as well. You know, you want to see people succeed, and you want to be around that, but you also see people succeed around you makes you push harder too.
Yeah.
So that, you know, that's exactly what I want to be of. You know, it is hard. You know, I had a good sponsor last, you know, I was with, but you know, it was a distance thing. You know, this is going to be more hands-on. It's going to be, I'm, you know, I feel like I'm solely a part of it. You know, I have a hand in everything, and that's what I've always wanted. And so now that we've been able to set our lives up to do this, and like, you know, I'm really going to thrive here coming forward, and on the personal aspect, but as well as giving back to the team is in my regards too.
I think you said it best when we were at Alpha Land and you had all the athletes upstairs. Remember you had the conversation with them and you're like, I know it's like weird at first because, like, you know, these events, like you said, you used to go to these events and no one knew who you were.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you talk to them and it's like they all understood, like, you start somewhere and you build from there, right?
Yeah,
It's like being the biggest fish in the, you know, in the smallest pond isn't always the best thing in the world.
for sure.
So like being comfortable with starting over and like grinding your way up is the only way you become the best, right?
Yeah.
And I think you knowing that and understanding that is huge. Like, not saying that you're by any means the small, like, you know, the biggest fish in the smallest pond, but like you knowing what you're going through right now is gonna make you better.
Yeah.
I mean, the environment you're in is everything. Like when I was in Ottawa, even none of my friends give a fuck about anything really.
Yeah.
With me and Ian were bodybuilding, and that's like the only thing we ever even saw or did. It was like nothing else, and I was like, didn't even know what else was really out there.
Yeah.
And then when I came down here, made the switch, and everyone's doing so much shit, and like that's why like it attracts people to get in this environment, because we're all like growing, doing so much, so ambitious, that makes you like see what's possible and want to do more and achieve more yourself, and it's motivating as hell. So
And we all help each other.
yeah,
I mean, that's one thing that I can say. I mean, from every aspect, like Scott, me, Matt, Chris, like we all, like whatever we can do to help each other's thing, like that's what we do.
Right, and the resources, the absolute resources are here for everybody as well.
yeah.
It's just,
Sorry, man.
go ahead. No, I mean, I have a lot that I could say about this. I mean, I haven't talked much about this. I mean, Dom knows, but Brett came to, this was in 2018. This was right before we started, 2018, 19. It was right before we started Revive. So that was 2019.
Yeah.
So in 2019, we had some things within our family that we needed to move back to Georgia for. But also within that, Jordan and I were having some financial issues. So we were actually living at that time at Jordan's parents' house. So this was January, February, March,
2.5
April,
years
May,
ago.
in 2019. So Brett came down at the time, and I just didn't feel comfortable basically asking Jordan's parents if one of my athletes could stay at the house as well. But we got down, we found a place for him to stay, but the area wasn't great in terms of hotels. So we got to the hotel, and I was like, absolutely not. You're not going to stay here. So anyway, I'm saying all this to say Brett saw, the living environment that I was in 2.5 years ago. I can say personally, the best decision I made for myself in terms of my personal life, in terms of my family's life, was to move down here. And that's a conversation that Brett and I had. I was just really transparent with him. You walk into this building and you don't even have to say anything. If you're observant and you watch everybody, like, we're all just actively working on being better, in all aspects. And I knew, basically based off of what Brett just said, that he was going to thrive in this environment because he's an individual that's very focused, but he's also a team player. And he's aware that he always wants to be putting himself in a better position. So I knew this was just going to be something that really put him in an environment to do well. And also I want to say this, because I'm sure there's people that, not that I want to address the negative aspect of this, but Brett came down before the Arnold, and there was no conversation to be had about him being a raw athlete during our time. I didn't want to put that conversation even out there because that wasn't the focus. It was him going into the Arnold. But on his way home, I texted him when he landed, and I just thanked him for coming out, because it was also like the past few months in a friendship role outside of coaching for me has been a little tough. So I said, hey, man, this has been really good for me to have you down here and just hang out and talk and chat. And that's when he kind of opened the conversation. He's like, honestly, man, he's like, after seeing what I saw the past few days of, what you guys are doing, what Dom and Chris are doing, he's like, it's just something I want to be a part of, and I was thrilled. I texted Dom, and I showed Dom the text, because, like, what made me so happy, whether you guys want to believe me or not, was that wasn't something that we discussed when he was down here. That wasn't the motive of him being here. But again, through just our actions and how we conduct ourselves, it was something that Brett saw enough in that he wanted to be a part of, So I just thought that was really cool, how this has all kind of happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best, actions always speak louder than words, and just observing, I'm very observant. Like, we were talking about this the other day. I'm actually kind of an introvert besides all this media stuff. I do a lot of just watching people and stuff, and and listening and learning, and just seeing the results. And the results, it's not, you don't have to be very smart to realize that there's something good and something big happening here. And the greatest thing about that is that they're all bringing each other with them.
Yeah.
A lot of these people I've seen for a long time, and even Scott here and everything, just seen them continue to level up as well. So it's not just certain people they take with them. It's they want to see everybody. So that's what I'm all about, and that's what I'm going to be about, and I'm excited for it.
It takes a special person to, like, thrive in this environment, though.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell you right now, this environment will either, like, make you or it'll destroy you.
Yeah.
Because it requires you to be able to produce, and people who don't freak out. So we've seen that firsthand too. So it's like, it goes both ways. Yeah. And that's a testament to you, because you saw it as, like, a challenge and you want to be a part of it. Some people see it as, the total opposite, and they run from it, which, speaks volumes. So we're super excited to have you here, man.
You want to talk bodybuilding stuff?
Let's talk bodybuilding.
Yeah, what are your plans? I found it interesting you said you started when you were 28.
That's crazy.
And I think people don't realize that most bodybuilders peak at 35 because they've been competing for about 15 years.
Yeah.
So you're now at where people don't really peak, and also peaking already, but you've only been doing it for 5 years.
Right, and that's why I think, like, I have a lot, like, you can't really look at me as, like, a number.
But you worked out before then.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you were, like, because Ivana was competing for a while.
Yeah.
So you were, like, in the gym doing probably what most people consider that lifestyle for quite some time.
I mean, that's the funny thing, and I've talked about this before, is, like, I almost trained for, like, 5 years not knowing that I was training for shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, because Ivana was competing, so I met her at age 25. That's really when I really started getting into it, like, learned how to eat, because I was only eating, like, 3 meals a day before that, and she taught me how to eat. I always loved to train. I have an exercise science degree. That's what I did. I worked in, like, the strength and conditioning department when I was in college and everything. So I always had that background, but I didn't have the knowledge on nutrition. And then, meeting her and then starting to go to shows with her. And then I started applying that to myself, but never really thought about competing until probably 3 years of that. So then, and the only reason that first show The only reason I competed is because like people started to notice my progress and stuff, and they wanted to like, you know, ask me to like help them coach or help them diet and stuff. And I was like, I don't even know how to diet. I've never, you know, I've never lost weight, you know.
Sure.
I've always just kind of been ripped, you know, and like I actually started to put weight on, you know. So, you know, just when I was 25, I was 170 pounds, you know. And by the time I was 20, I was probably like 210 or whatever. And then I decided, you know, I need to do a real diet. I need to know what that process is so then I can help these other people if they want it. And then you know how that goes. Like I did that and I did really well at the first show and I was hooked, you know. So I was like, and it took off from there. But, you know, that was kind of the setup of that. And then really just ran with it after that. And then 1 year later went pro, and then we moved to Denver like a couple weeks after I went pro. And then that's when I really started working with Matt, and that's when everything really started taking off. So here we are, you know. And I don't, back to the whole thing about age is a number, you know, I was a very late bloomer as well. Like, you know, I didn't really grow until I was really late, you know, like 16, 17 years old. And I still feel so amazing. And also, you know, being so new to this sport as well as like new to like the PEDs, you know, that's what a lot of people get so long prolonged. Mine has been more of a shorter period of time. Is I have a lot, you know, I have some good years ahead of me for sure. So that's also why I want to capitalize on, you know, becoming the best bodybuilder I can as quick as I can, is because I know I still have, my limits are still not even close to where they could be. So I want to continue the progress as fast as I can, and that's going to help by being down here.
Did you start? So you could, when I met you, you were in classic, and then you went to 212, and then you went to open.
Yeah.
Did you always want to be in open, and you were just fitting into what your weight was at?
Yeah. So looking back on it, and like I said, where I came from with Iowa, there wasn't really a bodybuilding scene.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we had to go to different states just to compete. So like, I didn't really have any guidance. I was self coached. You know, me and Ivana kind of did our plan. Her brother helped a little bit, but it was more so like, you know, I just kind of fit a category. I was like, well, I weigh the same as this, you know, classic physique division for my height. You know, I'll run with this. You know, it wasn't like I was like chasing a pro card or anything. That's all we knew. And so, you know, looking back at it, I probably would have done it a little bit different because I've always trained like a bodybuilder, you know, just hard nose. I mean, as you can classify it, but you know, I mean, I've always trained like I do now. It just took time. It just took, you know, consistency over time to convert into what I wanted to be. And I was never, you know, I had this conversation with him. It's like, I don't want a weight limit to ever cap me. You know, we did 212 for 2 shows, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore because I looked better when I was 225. So why don't I just work on trying to be the best Brett I can be? And so that's, you know, that's why I really like the open, is because now we can just manipulate things to just be the best look I can be without chasing a weight cap. And that's, you know, and that's where we're going to continue to go.
Yeah. Over the last 5 years, you've put on almost like 100 pounds, 6 years?
Yeah, probably.
Pretty much 100 pounds. Was there a point where you like blew up, or was it like, do you think you consistently put on like 20 pounds a year?
I would say when we decided to, you know, when I first moved out there, so when we decided we were going to do 212, I remember we got up to like 245 or something like that, and still looked like really good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't put much fat on even at my top weights, you know that. But it was when we decided after the 212, I took 2 years off from the stage. And those 2 years, I think, and you know, and people don't realize that, is like, I spent like, you know, at least a year and a half of that. You know, COVID kind of slowed some things down, but at least a year and a half of that, like acting like my life was a prep, you know what I mean? With like the consistency of food, training, you know, getting up in the middle of the night, eating a 7th meal for like 9 months straight, you know, just like I just approached it with so much, because I had so much motivation to just be the best I could be. And, you know, that's how, you know, that's my drive. So, you know, that's when we got up to like the 270s, you know, came back down, came back up. But it was just that 2 years away from the stage was just the most progress I think anyone can have. But the thing is, that's hard for people to do, because without us, you know, most people are shooting for a calendar day, shooting for a stage
It's
day.
accountability too, right?
So it's like I had nothing to shoot for. You know, there was no certain day. I just knew someday I would be there. And that's just that internal motivation, that internal drive that, you know, maybe only the few, I mean, I know everyone here does, but a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
That's when
That's not normal, right? Like gaining that much weight that fast. As far as like, it takes like a special human being.
Well,
to do
yeah.
that,
Well,
right?
just doing that, doing what he
Well,
did.
obviously like that is the dedication part of it. But like, what's the average bodybuilder gain size wise a year? It's not 50 pounds.
No, I mean, I would say if they're really on it, 5 to 8.
That's insane.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point, because no one likes to do anything for a long period of time. Even people who don't compete, but they're like trying to put on some size. They're like, well, like I bulk for like 3 months and then I cut because I want to like get lean for summer, and like it's like back and forth, and they don't see any progress. And like Ian did the same thing at one point. He took 2 years off bodybuilding, and that's when he went from like pro to like oh shit, he's like a big motherfucker now. And it takes that. And it's hard to have no goal and no like kind of end in sight and no like back and forth, because you get bored of just eating a lot and training hard and being tired and big all the time.
It's not fun. It's definitely not fun, but I mean, it pays off. It's like anything you put your time and consistency into, you know, it's gonna pay off. But for what we do, it's very hard because you're very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, you're usually beat up, you're beat to shit, you know, you're missing out on social events, you know, but it's, you know, luckily enough in my situation with a wife that also competes and stuff and supportive, you know, that it worked out very well for us. And you still have to find, you know, you still find balance in things you do, you know, you still travel, you still do dates and things like that. But, you know, you always have that in the back tier of your mind of like, I have a long-term goal and I'm going to work each day for it. Yeah.
Was there something specific you felt like that impacted you the most? Like adding a 7th meal? Was it just stuffing in more food? Because for you, it's hard to put on weight. Did you lower your training volume or something? Like, I feel like, I'm guessing it's a little harder for you to gain weight because you're lean all the time.
Yeah.
As opposed to some people, it's harder to get lean. You can get in shape.
Right.
So was it like training volume, eating a shit ton of food, like you said, waking up at night? Was there one thing you felt like was like the biggest, hardest thing that impacted you, or was it just everything?
A little bit of everything, but mainly just the nutrition side of things. And that's when Matt came into play, you know, going from like classic physique. And he you know, he taught me, you know, I thought I knew what eating a lot was, you know, or eating quite a bit was, until like, you know, he started sending me meal plans. I was like, wow, you know, I mean, like that's okay. That makes sense. That's what these big boys do, you know? So it's just that progression over time of, you know, eating and then just, you know, like just giving it the due process, giving it the time that's needed to hold on to that weight. Cause anyone can just get, you know, you've seen guys put on 40 pounds in like 4 months, but it's just water weight, you know, and then they just drop it right away. But just that, you know, that good, consistent, you know, that comes from my training as well, you know. It's just the intensity that I put into my training and using that food you're eating, using that muscle that you're putting on and making it stick, you know?
I can honestly say that, like, from just on the outside looking in, like when it comes to your athletes, especially, like, I think the biggest difference I notice is like training intensity.
Yeah.
Is the way they train. Like obviously just cause I'm around you guys, I follow a lot of bodybuilders, and I just like between like the way you train, your YouTube, and like Ian, like those are the guys that they trained it. Like I attribute it to that. I have to. I can't.
You aren't like, you have great genetics, but not great genetics to be huge. Yeah. You know, like you have great shape, but not to be huge. You don't. I mean, Ian doesn't have great genetics at all. Sorry, but like the difference is like how hard you can push yourself.
Yeah,
you guys
see
kill
people
yourselves.
who get away with it, who just like bench 315 for 10 and just like hit a number stop, and they're like, all right, and then they put on 20 pounds. But like most people aren't like that, and it takes that kind of intensity.
We talked a little bit on, I think 2 podcasts ago, about the Arnold, but I left this part out. So one of the things about Brett, like, I'll give him credit. Brett isn't somebody that waits on me. He's very not only motivated, driven, but like our whole time working together, we started after he won his pro card. I laid out his initial plan, but then like after that initial show, Brett would actually on the plane home work on a plan himself of, you know, what he wanted to eat, send it to me, and then we would kind of modify and go from there. And that's been how he's been all along. Same thing with the training. I've never kind of micromanaged his training, because for me, what I think is most important is execution and effort, and Brett has that. And I know that he trains as hard as he can possibly train. And then, you know, we've had times where we've gotten to train together, and I kind of cross-check that, cross-reference that, and then he goes back to doing his own thing. But what we talked about and what he's asked of me, you know, a part of being down here is kind of being more hands-on with his training, viewing it. And again, it's not so much that he needs more effort. I honestly think, because one of the things that we struggled with and that we'll continue to struggle with is his metabolism is probably one of the best that I've ever worked with, honestly. But there comes a point where you're having to feed the training so much, because if volume continues to rise and somebody's metabolism is really good, you're almost having to feed their ability to train more so than their ability to recover. You know, so as we're down here and kind of in communication with each other, and I'm able to be in the gym with him more often, we might kind of taper that volume back just so that we're not having to always outchase his ability to eat food, if that makes sense for, you know, for those of you guys that are listening. Because basically this whole prep, the food amounts were crazy. And granted, at the end, he could have been a little bit sharper. But ultimately, that process isn't going to change unless we change something long-term. You know, because he relatively could be at 1,000 grams of carbs a day in the next 3 years during a prep. unless some of the food and training environment changes a little bit. So that might mean, in simple terms, a little less volume in the gym, a little bit more recovery outside the gym, just so that way his metabolic rate just doesn't continue to increase as he becomes better and has more tissue long term.
What's an example of like the most you've ever eaten? Because people love hearing about food. So like, how much grams of carbs, oats, whatever, like per meal, how many meals, like how big, what's the most?
Well, I just did right now I'm eating 6,400 calories a day, just my base plan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's coming out of the show, with like one change, you know what I mean? So it's like, we did some crazy stuff with, going into the show, especially, Chicago last year too, is like, and this year, it was, eating 180 to 200 grams of cream of rice per meal with 50 grams of almond butter. And that was every meal every 2.5 hours. I mean,
that's dry weight.
Dry weight.
It's dry. Yeah, dry weight.
A lot of volume.
Yeah, so it's like, it's just, like he said, he's referencing just, the training intensity with the metabolism and everything. But, this gives me, I'm always going to be able to go the balls to the wall and train and stuff. But just having him oversee it and, conduct maybe more, maybe we don't need to do that, but this will be more efficient, because I know how to train really hard, but there might be other techniques that might work better. So it's like, it's going to be getting hands-on, getting, in front of him. It's going to make a huge difference. I truly believe that. And then we'll just, adjust things as we need to in the future. So you asked earlier, and I'll touch on this. So like with this move and stuff, like I don't have anything set and planned for competing in the next coming months. It's going to be more, we're going to get down here, get settled, get comfortable, get working, and then we'll, set something for either the end of the year or early next year. Just depends on, I'm mainly focused on seeing progress. So what I want to see is, bring up certain areas, with new tissue. And then so next time I'm on stage, we don't really need to worry about a number. It's just going to be, let's focus on getting as conditioned as possible all the way down. Don't even look at a scale if we don't need to, and just, focus on showing the new improvements. And those improvements will be from coming down here and continuing this process.
You spoke about like the Arnold and changes and different this year. I'm curious if like mentally how that was, because you went from being like just like the new young guy on the block underdog to this year, like there was some expectations and a lot of talk about you. You were like the guy that would have talked about, and now going forward too. Did that was that hard for you to handle? I know you're super chill, like mellow dude, but did that like almost affect it? Like put more pressure, expectation, where it like took your like chill thought away from I'm just bodybuilding training to be like, wow, now there's an expectation of me to perform. Did that make it harder?
Right.
Like, how was that?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can probably relate to this better than anybody, and I feel like we handle this very similar, as like we keep a lot of internal, you're never going to see an expression out of me, especially if it's a negative expression in regards to that, but it was definitely new. So last year when, for the debut, we were, people were picking us to get last or 8th to 10th place or whatever. So there was no pressure, going into that. It was solely just fun. We had an idea that we could do pretty well. So it was just like, hey, there's nothing to lose. Let's come out here. Let's just give it our best and see what happens, And then that was kind of the coming out party. But like you said, that all changed. Mm-hmm. So, getting second to Hunter last year, and then he went on and got 4th at Olympia. There was obviously a lot of hype, a lot of excitement. It was enjoyable, but yes, it was definitely a little bit more, it put a lot more pressure, And the thing is, I still think, people are like, you might not place as well as, you're supposed to, whatever, but like, and I told him this, the pressure never got to me. It really didn't, you know what I mean? Cause like, I feel like I'm very mentally strong, and I always have been, especially with sports and competitions. I'm extremely mentally strong. And like, as long as I'm in like my zone I'm in the right atmosphere with, with just Matt there, the wife there, in the great spot. So like, I never was stressing too much, but it definitely like you're not human if you don't recognize those things. Like you don't recognize the pressure. I don't think it took away from the look or anything. I think we just kind of missed the peak a little bit, and it's something we're going to continue to perfect moving forward. But it was definitely a different experience, and a cool experience. And honestly, that whole weekend was a great experience to let me level up in the future, because I know what to expect now. Mm-hmm. I know what to expect going into an Arnold or an Olympia down the road. It's just going to give me that, and then that next time I know going into it what it's going to be like, and I'm going to be able to approach it as a professional as much as possible. So it was, and I want to actually continue to have those feelings, because I think it makes you're someone that levels up with those things as well. you're defending titles now. You know what I mean? So it's like it's even more on you as to continue to defend a title. And are you gonna slack and let that shit eat you up, or are you gonna rise above it? You know what I mean? So it's definitely an experience that I'm glad I had, and it's a pressure that I actually want to have moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something you have to want like that.
Yeah, you got to want it. Exactly. Yeah. Like it's going to be there, or it's going to eat you alive, or you're just going to thrive off of it,
Yeah. Number one thing is why 90% of people rise and fall is for that exact reason.
Yeah.
It's not because anything happens in their life. It's just their head can't handle how it feels different now. It's not as fun anymore. There's too much pressure. The expectations, like, I have to do this instead of I want to. Like, that whole change in your mind, people don't realize how much it can fuck with you if you let it. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you got to get head on your shoulder.
Yeah. So mentally, no, I feel really good about me and moving forward, and especially with the teams around me. The mental side of things, we're all good. So it's just perfecting the small minute details and continuing on my journey. Like I said, I think we've been doing this for 4 years now. So give me a few more, and we'll be winning some big things.
Baby.
You know what I mean? So.
Well, yeah, talk about that, because like this is new, right? The whole like social engagement part of this is new.
Like the pressure aspect of just you having the biggest line at the Arnold, that was something you never dealt with before either.
Yeah, and it was cool. And I, at the Arnold, we definitely had the biggest line at Meet the Athletes, and it just shows me, what I'm doing on. It shows me that people are kind of attracted to my character in general. You know what I mean? That's just me being honest. And like, I try to just be as real as I can on these things. I don't act a different way and that's why I continue to remind myself, because I know people, you guys know people that act totally different on social media compared to who they are behind the scenes. I don't need to name any names, but that's someone, I hate that stuff. So I see that, and that just, I want to be the same person I always am. And if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. And so, people have had a liking to me, I would say, in regards to, I mean, it's not like Chris Bumstead views and likes, but it's just for starting out. So
I started somewhere too.
Yeah. So like, I started my YouTube about 6 weeks out from the Arnold. So it was probably like 2 months ago now, 2.5 months ago. And, right away it took off, and, people are interested in obviously the training intensity, the training style, but also the behind the scene things. We had a very good response from the videos at the Arnold, just us being ourselves, doing things. And it shows me a lot that, people want to see that. So I'm running with that now, being a content creator or whatever you call it. I'm going to categorize myself. So, but it just, I just want to continue to bring this journey. And that's, like I said, that's another reason why I'm coming down here, is just the resources to do that. Documenting things, getting in front of the right people in that, and sharing my experience. I want to share these next few years and show people that, like, through the work, through the hard work involved, putting in the time and just being yourself, that you can accomplish a lot. And I want to keep blowing this out of the water. So make sure you tune in to Brett the Butcher Wilkin on YouTube.
Is that the channel name? Brett the Butcher Wilkin?
Brett the Butcher Wilkin.
Brett the Butcher Wilkin.
Yeah.
Noted. I think we're working out tomorrow, so.
There we go.
Would you say that your out of gym content has helped push your brand more than your in gym content, or what would you say has been the best for you?
My gym content's helped the most. But I think people like to see stuff too, because they like to see what you do in like normal life. It kind of creates like a closer connection. And like you said, like just being real on social media, people just want to like feel like they're hanging out with you, and like they know who you are. They don't want to be like, this is complete bullshit, or a personality that like no one really is all the time. They want to see vulnerability or fears that you have, as well as your success and how hard you work, kind of all combined. And it comes from showing stuff outside of the gym, because you don't just live there. They want to feel like they know you, and that you're a normal human, and what you're doing is possible because you're a normal person who's doing something that they dream of doing. Yeah. That's kind of what it is all about. So having a mix of it's good, but I still mainly do gym content because people like to see that.
Yeah.
I like doing more than that, but people don't like to always see that.
People love eating, right?
People love eating.
That's crazy.
Like
they
when
love watching you eat.
If you're eating 7,000 calories,
yeah.
If you post a video and you eat it and you just write 7,000 calorie off season full day of eating, people will be
freak
oh my
out.
God, you do one of those every week. People would love to watch it.
The same exact food too every time.
Yeah.
They'll still love it.
Just to see the volume.
All my videos, I'm like, I don't know why you guys watch this shit. It's the same thing every single time.
Yeah.
Like, we love it.
We love it.
Like, all right, let's keep it going.
Yeah, we back to Brett's prep. We were talking one night. We figured it out. So when he started prep, I made one initial cut of his food, And then that was his new base plan. And then that was the last cut. And I would say that was probably around 11 weeks out. And then from that point, we added in high days. And then his rate of loss from his high days started to pick up. So then I actually increased his base plan again. And really, we figured it out. What was it, like 3 days a week you were in a deficit? 3 to 4? I mean, mostly 3 days. He would do pretty much 3 low days a week and then somewhat of a high day.
So low day was still like
I was going to say, what's your low day?
Yeah.
45 to 5,000 calories.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Cardio was more so just formality for heart health.
just so you get a break from the food.
Walking in between meals.
In the morning.
I was talking to Ian about that yesterday, remember? I was like, when you eat all that, like, what do you do? He's like, sometimes I'll go outside and, like, walk the dogs just to, like, get it to move around.
Yeah.
When he can stay awake.
Yeah.
Right.
That was
Other times he just eats and he's like.
Did you see the comment today on his Instagram Q&A? It was like, how often do you sleep or something? Or what time? He's like, all the time.
All the time. All day long.
As much as possible.
I wake up for food and training. That's it.
It's incredible. It's crazy. I can see it, though. I mean, that has to make you tired, eating that much food. You have to be tired from eating that
just the insulin response alone is just crazy.
Lethargy. Yeah.
Do you have that effect if you eat like 200 grams of cream of rice or something? Or
well, not so much
like
right now just
tired?
because I'm a little bit lower weight, but it's like where Ian is at 300 pounds or whatever. When you get into that peak off season, it's just lethargy is real. You also don't know how good you're sleeping, as well either.
For sure.
Mattering on if you have a CPAP or not, but I don't think when we're that big that you're ever sleeping very well or getting that REM sleep.
You don't use a CPAP?
I haven't yet, but I probably will at this off season when I reach my max.
Yeah.
Last year I was experiencing it. Like Ivana was like freaking out because I'd be snoring all night and stuff. And I was like, well, it's all right. Prep's in like 3 weeks. Just hang on. Like I don't, because I didn't really want to, put it all on and stuff. But this year I'll definitely do it just so I have more energy during the day.
Plus, it'll help your recovery. You know, a lot.
There's so many benefits to it.
Cortisol, everything.
Yeah.
People don't realize like.
Do you wake up rested or do you wake up and you're like, fuck, I'm tired? Like in that time, like when you have, like when know you're snoring.
Probably still tired. I was like, I could probably still sleep.
Okay.
A couple more hours or whatever.
Got it.
Like I said, you can just lay there. But like I said, you're pushing everything to the max at that point, like weight and you're probably your blood pressure's up a little bit too.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah, people don't realize that it's not just like, it's the size that no one can relate to being that big that's hard to sleep, but it's also just having that much food in you.
Yeah.
Like you're not supposed to drink a lot or eat 2 hours before bed because if your stomach is full, your diaphragm can't expand. And when you're breathing properly through your nose into your diaphragm, that's how you get into a REM sleep and actually can recover and get into that state. But if your stomach is full, which I'm sure your stomach is full 24/7 eating that much, you can't breathe properly. That'll increase your blood pressure. You won't get a deep sleep. You'll be tired. You won't recover. And it fucks you up on top of just being so big that your body's harder to breathe and relax. So it fucks you up for sure.
Yeah.
I even noticed that, and I'm not even huge or eating that much. But when I just eat a meal right before bed, I lie in bed, I'm like, like it's hard to breathe. And it fucks me up. I can't imagine being 300 pounds or 4 inches shorter in my weight. Die. So, what's going on with Ivana? Is she coming down here with you soon to visit?
I'm leaving her in Denver.
I meant not to move. Is she coming down to check out places too, or are you fully
so
responsible
I'm just
for
here
that?
this week. I'm kind of responsible. She's sending me places to go check out, so that's what I'm gonna be doing tomorrow. But yeah, no, if we have to, she'll probably come down next time, or unless I find a place, and then we'll be back in 6 to 8 weeks. So she's super excited. This gives her an option to be, like I said, with these brands. There's just so much you can sell as well as an athlete, as promoter and stuff. It's just like so many more products to use, and she's excited about that. Especially with like women's health supplements and things like that.
For sure.
And she just fits this. She obviously we just go together with brands and stuff, and the last brand didn't really have anything for women, so she almost like wasn't enjoying it as much. But this will give her that light that fire. And honestly, I think it'll kind of, we were talking about this earlier, light her fire to compete again, but in a different category. Mm-hmm. So she's kind of making, it's cool to see she's just turned 30, so it's kind of seeing like she's has a new mindset of like looking at the future. You know what I mean? Because like we want to have kids, probably within the next couple of years, and so she's kind of setting herself up with that. Not wanting to like train or compete in figure as much because there's a lot more that goes into that. And then she more so is kind of seeing her body like the ideal mom body, after bodybuilding. So right now she's not training any more upper body. She's just doing lower body. I think she still has that itch to compete. So we'll see. Like, I think, after we get down there, I think she'll really kind of have that drive again. But I think she'll do like a wellness competition within the next year or so. And then, that will kind of transform into the future after bodybuilding of being a mom and stuff. So it's cool seeing her mature that way, adulting as you would, and kind of setting ourselves up, for our future family. So it's really fun to put this all together here.
I mean, obviously you're saying that she's handling it well. I know her. She's mature. You're both level-headed people. But was it difficult for you guys at all in a relationship? Like, 'cause she was like an all-star competitor, and then now she's kind of taking a step back and taking different decisions for her future, and then you're kind of coming into the limelight. And was it difficult for you as a relationship for you to step into that role where she's kind of more supportive of you and your competing success? Is it hard for her to see that when shit used to be her in there, or how's that been?
Yeah, and honestly, that's a great question, because like I always kind of thought about that, because it's kind of weird. Like, I kind of always knew that I was gonna like make, eventually make it in this. I mean, even before anyone else did, I was kind of behind the scenes, but I always envisioned that I was gonna get to where I wanted to be someday. And so I kind of always thought about that. And even one person asked me this like 5 years ago. He's like, what's going to happen when you surpass Ivana? And like, I still haven't. Obviously, she's won 5 pro shows. She's been to 5 Olympias or whatever. But obviously now I'm getting more attention and stuff because I'm in open bodybuilding, and women's, figure doesn't get as much attention and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I never even thought about that. He's like, yeah, and that kind of hit me there. And like, and then it kind of happened within this last year, coming out of Chicago and stuff, and starting to get that. And honestly, to be 100% real with you, like, I couldn't be more impressed with how she handled it and like flipped the switch. Like, I mean, she didn't compete this year at all. She didn't really want to. She just wanted to be part of my journey, and that really solidified, what I am, what our plans are in the future. And like, it just made me extremely happy to see this, and like her be, take such a role. And like, even Matt knows, like, she was, trying to play assistant coach with Matt all the time and things like that. So it's like, to see somebody at that caliber, she got 6th at the Olympia before, see somebody at that caliber kind of flip the switch and put hold on her, on her successes, on her ambitions to like, to build me up. It's been, that just means the world to me, especially. And it, that just shows how, strong the love is there. And it's something that's really been cool to see, along with, her growing up through this process as well.
For sure.
You guys have a lot of stuff in common.
What?
So you guys have a lot of stuff in common.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that, because you went through the same thing.
Yeah.
I can say that too. I mean, I saw an Ivana this time that was just like, she was so supportive. Yeah.
And at the Arnold.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that too. Like, she, every time I talked to her, she was just like so pumped for you.
Yeah.
Like, she was just there, like, to do whatever she needed to do to make sure you had everything you needed.
And she didn't. And I'm saying this, Ivana, if you're watching this, I'm saying this like to your credit. She didn't even follow like a diet this time, which I actually commended her on. I thought that was very impressive, because I've been in home weekend structures of show weekends, or in the hotel room or whatever, and it's like the spouse, even though, or the significant other, even though they're not competing that weekend, it's like they're still prioritizing their own training, their own diet, monopolizing the kitchen, and there was none of that. She just truly played a supportive role, did whatever she could, and I'm sure as a competitor, as an athlete, like, that's not a natural transition, but I feel like she just did it very graciously, and I was impressed.
Yeah.
It was cool to see.
Like, instead of like prioritizing training, she would just go to the expo and like talk me up,
Right, yeah.
She'd go talk shit to people.
Have you seen my husband?
Yeah.
He's going to kick your fucking ass.
Sometimes I got to hold her back a little bit, especially in comment sections. You're like, chill out a little bit,
Cool. Well, we're going to go look at houses tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something that Dom did with me, just the whole house process. So we're going to go do that tomorrow and go from there.
You get to see it before you buy it.
That's right.
You bought it based off a picture.
Yeah.
You did.
Or
I'll
a
never
video.
forget when I walked in your house. The floor was like all buckled because it was hot. Then they didn't turn the AC on.
Oh, really? You didn't even tell me that.
I couldn't.
I couldn't.
I couldn't
tell
tell
you.
That's after I already bought it?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
shit.
you like went. You had me go over there to like do something. I forget.
Yeah.
You're like, can you just go walk through it and check it out or something? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I went in and like the
100
floor was
degrees.
like waved like this and it was hot. And I was like, oh fuck. And I like went to the AC and I put it like super cold. And I came back like 3 days later and the floor was normal. And I was like, thank you God.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dom took a video for our house, and then 3 hours later, Jordan and I were like, "Did that house even have a tub in it?"
Well, no. With your house, it was even worse because we were looking at houses, and like every time I would go look at one, like it'd be sold.
while you were there.
Yeah, like while I was there, and then finally I would like call Matt. I'm like, "Yo, I'm putting an offer in on this house before I go look at it," and he was like, "What?" And I was like, "We have to," and like it worked out, obviously, but it had a tub.
Yeah.
Had a tub.
It was all
That
good.
was the only requirement. And a pool in case.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. The housing market down here is wild.
Yeah.
But
Slowed down a little, I think.
maybe I don't
Hopefully.
know.
All right, so it's good. It's a wrap. Anything else you want to add? Are we good to go? Time to go eat. Been over 2 hours.
It's always time to eat.
Been over 50 minutes. Got to eat now.
Now we're gonna go train some hamstrings with Ian now. Yeah, feels good, man. It feels real. It feels right. So I'm just excited. Hopefully, get to be on this a little bit more with you guys. Just keeping seeing this channel. This, it's already, what do you say, 18, 15 episode what?
Oh, yeah, episode 15.
Yeah, you guys have been doing a great job. It's starting to really grow, and there's been some good stuff. So
It's actually really cool to see how like the consistency of the YouTube channel like builds a following.
Oh, it's everything.
It's been.
I mean, that was one of the most.
insane.
We're gonna do an episode on this weekend, but that was one of the most common things that people came up to me and
Everybody.
said that they're watching
Podcast,
our podcast. Yeah,
Everybody.
yeah.
I would
So,
say like over 100 people said that in the line.
yeah.
It was
So,
dope. All right, episode
Yeah, man.
15.
we're excited to have you. I'm
Brett
glad
the
you're
Butcher.
gonna be down
Brett
here.
the Butcher Wilkin. What's your Instagram? Brett Wilkin.
yeah, Brett_Wilkin.
No S.
No S.
I put an S on the board and I erased it.
All right, yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Hell yeah.